Guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh. Today is October 10th. The Dodgers and Blue Jays are moving on, while the Tigers and Cubs have forced the Game 5. Let's talk about some guys the Pirates will not be acquiring this offseason. Stick around. You'll see what I'm saying. It's Friday, guys.
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Good morning to everybody listening in the morning.
Yeah, it is a good morning there, little man.
Good afternoon and evening to everybody else. It is
Friday.
So, we're all good. We're all good. You feeling it right now? I would think. I'll get to the Pirates stuff soon. I promise I will. But did you see how that Phillies-Dodgers game ended last night? Man, if you haven't, look it up. I'm gonna talk about it, but you still have to see it to really believe it. Owen Kerkering in pitching for the Phillies, 11th inning, 2 outs, bases loaded after walking the bases loaded. And they had pulled him out in this game, and they had just brought him in, rather. Andy Pages is up. He just hits a little dribbler right back at Kerkering. Looks like the end of the inning. All he's got to do is field it, take a couple steps, underhand it to first base, and we're moving on to the 12th inning. But instead, he kind of fumbles the grounder as he's stepping off the mound. I get it. It's got a little English on it. He's coming off the mound, walking downhill, whatever. He kicks the ball. It falls a little bit behind him. Still had to play at first. Actually, probably pretty easily. Had enough time to pick it up, step, and throw, and still get the out. But the ball was a little bit behind him. He said he just kind of felt like the ball, his momentum was already going that way. So he throws home. I'm not sure he even gets Edman out in the first place. I know he missed home, but he probably wouldn't have if Real Muto's arm wasn't reaching for the ball right at him, kind of holding him back. Yeah, he had to reach for it because Kerkering threw it way wide over the head of Real Muto. Not only didn't get the easier out at first base, he threw the ball to the backstop, and the game's over, 2-1. Baseball is not fair, guys. In a hurry, his decision was blurry. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. It was more supposed to be a play on vision is blurry, decision. Anyway, his physical ability essentially left him in a moment of rush and panic. I think as Pirate fans, we can relate to something like this happening to end a game. Am I right?
I'm bummed out.
You can't help but feel bad for that dude, really. You really can't. All in all, the Dodgers win. They move on. The Cubs forced the Game 5 Saturday. Last night, the Game 5 is on Saturday, to see who plays the Dodgers Monday. So looking forward to that game and tonight's Game 5 as well. Skubal versus Kirby, Detroit in Seattle. Talk about a fantastic matchup. Skubal will win the Cy Young, a very good pitcher. He will pitch very well, but he hasn't won a postseason game yet, which is really interesting. We know a little bit about that. Let's talk Buccos. I mentioned in the opening that I was going to say something about guys the Pirates will not be acquiring this offseason. And, well, that's because they're already there. We talked Sunday about a lot of things on the show with Jake, and we talked about how this position group specifically is, well, where there are holes and where there's room for improvement and so on and so forth. But we talked about dudes who are either locking down a spot or are being challenged for a spot or competing for one. Part of making this team better is making those players better. Some need to bounce back. Some need to break out. Most need to do some of both, right? And we're going to hear a lot this offseason in conversations and winter meetings and all that stuff. We've already started to hear about the internal improvements that this team should make. And they're going to say, we're going to need guys internally to step up and take these positions. Now, like I said, you could be talking about guys who are already there but need to actually come into their own, become better major league ball players, or guys like Nick York who might try to force his way in. You'll look for guys who are not a whole lot in AAA actually, but AA has a handful of guys that, man, could make an impact. Could they push themselves into a spot, and you think obviously Connor Griffin, but we've been talking about Termarr Johnson for a long time. Esmeralyn Valdez is a guy that hits a ton of home runs this year and guys are looking at. But there's guys in this system who could force their way into the conversation internally. But you can't rely on that, right? We know that they need to make we know they need to make moves. We know they need to go out and get these certain guys at certain positions. But you need these internal improvements as well. And this team is not disconnected from that, right? They're not disconnected from these players in the offseason. So the easy button is O'Neal Cruz, right? Because he has the tools most plausible to be an impact player for this team and in this league, really. The numbers still show that he's got all the tools to be a fantastic player. It just matters, like, if he's going to make it happen. This is a guy who needs to bounce back and break out. It hasn't happened all the way yet. And I've said the guy ends up with a 2038 season, leads the league in stolen bases, and yet we're still very disappointed because with those counting stats, it's not production, right? You still need to produce. And that's something that's still missing from his game overall for a full season. They're last in runs. We need to get there. The biggest bounce back candidate is probably Brian Reynolds, right? He was considered a top 10 outfielder in this league not too long ago. And that's not going to be the case going into this next year. Guys, if 2/3 of our outfield can already be here and be top of the order bats, adding a left fielder to this team makes the outfield a strength. So that's something that those two guys in particular, they need to hit. And they need to be better on defense. More so Cruz, obviously, but still needs to be better. Next, I'd go to second base. You could just say Nick Gonzalez, but the truth is there's really three guys who could take that position and make it theirs. Nicky G, along with Nick York and Jared Triolo. You might even throw Leo Verpagero in there if he's still around through the offseason. But I'll stick with Gonzalez because he's the guy who had the most time there this year. 84 OPS plus is not going to get it done next year. Gonzalez had a 97 OPS plus in 24. You were hoping for that step forward to go up from a 97. Like, give me like a 105. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been a really good player. The one thing that Nick Gonzalez did in 24 that he did very poorly in 25 was that runners in scoring position scenario. He was good in 24. He lost that portion of his game in 25, and that took a big hit. You need Gonzalez to get the damage up more. He's hit 270 and 260 in the last couple of years. It's just not terrible, but the on-base percentage has been 311 and 299. We've talked about how the league average batting average is down in the 250s now. We talked about how there's only 7 guys this season and last season who hit 300 or better. Batting averages are going down. Large in part, the pitching is a part of that. But it's also a mindset of I can raise my batting average, but unless our whole team's doing it, we're not stringing hits together. That's why I talked about the Blue Jays, the fact that they have 3 guys in the top 12 in batting averages. They're scoring runs by putting it together. Now, all 3 of those guys have the ability to hit the ball out of the park too, so that helps. But a higher average really does nothing if you're not also getting on base. A combined 12 home runs for Nick Gonzalez is not helping the cause. That's in the last 2 years combined. If you're going to miss getting on base, then you can't slug under 400, right? If you're saying, well, he's not getting on base, but he's slugging, at least. Can't do that. Can't not do either one of them. I don't know. I kind of wonder if the strikeout rate is a little too low for Gonzalez. I know that sounds crazy, but he's under 20% this year. If he does more damage and picks his spots a little bit better, swings at better pitches, he might be taking a few more pitches. And if he takes a few more pitches, he's going to be behind in the count. The strikeout percentage is going to go up. But I bet he's more effective. I bet he does more damage if that strikeout rate goes from, can I get it on this page? I'm on this page. I don't know if the strikeout rate shows up here. No, we're just on value. Either way, his strikeout rate was like 2 points or 2% below 20. That's a weird way to say it. Why did I say it like that? Should have this stuff pulled up anyway. Strikeout percentage was 17.9, so I was right there. And last year, 19.1. And that's down from what everybody thought was going to be a problem. I mean, his rookie season, he came up and he only had 120 plate appearances, but he had a 28% strikeout rate. So it was like, man, the guy's going to strike out too much. And he's done a good job to limit that and get the batting average to 270 and 260 in the last 2 years. In what has been about the same amount of games, just 2 games more this year. Defense needs improved as well from Nick Gonzalez, but he could be a better hitter. This front office loves Jared Triolo. Force your way in, man. You kind of already started that on the left side of the infield, but he could also be an answer at second base if they somehow acquire 2 players for the other side, or Connor Griffin shows up and says, I'm the dude. Force your way in. He'll probably get some playing time next year because of that while they're waiting for Connor to come up, if that's where they are. Henry Davis would be a huge upgrade for this team next year. He could be a huge, mostly because he had a 66 OPS plus in 25. Even getting to a place where he's 10% below league average at 90, it's a huge increase on generating runs for this team. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get better. Obviously, we'd like him to eclipse that and be better than league average, but with his defense and the way he handles the staff, I think we'd all take a 90 to 95, especially if it comes with some extra home runs. Nick York could make waves. Spencer Horwitz could take another step forward and get closer to that 20 homers when you're talking full season. Healthy wrist. Rafael Flores can make sure that they carry 3 catchers on this team, because his offense and his bat needs to be a part of this team off the bench, at DH, periodically at first base against tough lefties. Billy Cook can become somebody we actually talk about again. I haven't even gotten into Matson, Nicholas, Moretta, Harrington, and more on the pitching side that can do more and be better. The point is, we're going to need to see more this offseason. See guys go into those specialists, working on the swing, playing in lead-om in Dominican over the winter. Whatever it is, if by chance Ben Cherington finds a way to acquire 2 to 3 bats to put into this lineup, I'd bet the under on 2.5. But if he does, I'm sure they're not going to be Bobby Witt Jr. or Jose Ramirez type guys. They're not probably going to land a guy like that. Those guys can carry a bad offense over a summer. We've seen that the last 2 summers with Bobby Witt last year, with Jose Ramirez this year. All Jose Ramirez did was carry them to a point where they stayed in it, And then at the back end of the season, the rest of the team started hitting a little bit. And they boosted their numbers up. Some guys got hot. Some guys were replaced and put in some time. And they were able to put something special together and end up in the postseason. So if it's not going to be a type like that, a big-time impact guy like that, you're going to have to see improvements internally. And when they talk about those internal improvements, we can't roll our eyes. Because as much as we need them to acquire players, we need this internal improvement, especially after the season that we just had. I talk a lot about natural progression when I talk about young players. Natural is loosely used, but mostly because all of these guys are going to put in the work in the offseason. That, to me, is an expectation that these guys are going to put in that work in the offseason. So naturally, they do that. Now, if a player doesn't put in the work, he's not going to progress. And then, it's not like you just automatically get better without the work. They got to put it in. We need to start seeing the fruits of that work in 26, right? If this team's going to make the postseason next year, which, don't forget, is the plan, period. Full stop.
Dang it, Bobby.
Hey, come hang out Sunday night for the live show on YouTube. We love the live chat on Sunday. It's been awesome the last few weeks. You guys have been incredible. So come hang out Sunday for the live show. And happy Friday.
Friday.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Subscribing to your platform of choice is the best way to be notified for new episodes. And now, new episodes every weekday. Remember, live shows with my dad and Uncle Jake are Sundays at 9 p.m. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and join them in the live chat every Sunday. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2 Buctober. Clear the deck. Cannonball coming. And let's go Bucks.
Yeah, well, here's a suggestion. Go get someone who knows what they're doing.
Dang it, Bobby.
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.